Waiting for that live cue. And we're live. Welcome to You, Me, and YTV. I'm Ryan, and today I'm joined by Brett. Dude, how's it going, man?
Pretty good, Ryan. Thanks for having me here on the show.
Awesome. All right, so basically, what happened, everybody, is on a Laura Bertram fan group that she was very nice to add me to. Some fan posted like, "Yeah, this book's finally coming out," and I'm like, "What book?" And I see Scary Tales in Illustrated History of Our Year for the Dark, and I say, "What?" And it's on Kickstarter now. Say what? And then just and I hope I didn't alarm you by messaging you on three different platforms of social media. I'm like, I got a show called You, Me, and YTV, and I really want you to be on it. And why don't you be on it? We can talk about Gift for the Dark, and yeah, all that. So,
It's all
dude,
good.
let's go back in time. And hey, Bernadette, what's going on? Let's go back in time
Oh,
and
hi
let's
there.
just let's discuss how does one become a fan and then become an author? We all know why we love Are You Afraid of the Dark, but what made you say to yourself, I like this so much that I'm about to put myself through this to get this book done?
Yeah, it's funny you say that because I that was not even the plan when I first started. I mean, back in October 2017, about 3 years ago, this started because I had creative block. I was an artist at the time. I wasn't getting many commissions for my freelance work, and I was just kind of sitting in my living room where I lived at the time, just kind of like mulling over, oh, what am I going to do with myself? And out of the blue, just I'm a very visual person, so I like think in pictures mainly.
Mm-hmm.
Out of the blue, this image of like some sparks and darkness started like firing in my head, and then it showed like a roaring campfire, and my immediate thought was, oh, that's interesting. That kind of reminds me of when I was in the Boy Scouts, or even Are You Afraid of the Dark? And then Are You Afraid of the Dark rang like a loud, clear bell in my head, and I just kind of followed my curiosity trail, and revisited Are You Afraid of the Dark? So with a quick Google search, to my dismay, I found out that there's like virtually no Are You Afraid of the Dark fan art about on the internet back in 2017, and that kind of bugged me, as an artist. So I kind of took on the challenge of myself to see if I can kind of create something for the community and just represent, one of my favorite shows from my childhood growing up. And originally, there's like only one or two other pieces out there, maybe a Zebo, maybe a Crimson Clown piece. But
Yeah.
what really got the fire started for me was this Instagram artist who's actually become friends with me now. He goes by the name of Life of Cole. And he did an Inktober series of 30 days of Are You Afraid of the Dark, just like drawing villains on sort of like comic book paper, and then did
Nice.
like a nice, cool frame around it. And my initial reactions were twofold. One was, wow, that's so cool. I've never seen like Are You Afraid of the Dark art done so well. And then the second reaction is, wait a minute, why aren't I doing this? And that just like,
I've never seen Are You Afraid of the Dark art. Period.
yeah,
A few people out there have drawn Ghastly Grinner because it's
mm-hmm. It's popular.
popular and it's also drawn originally. But I've never seen anybody take to ink, characters from the show. I've never seen Sardo drawn before, or
Right.
Mister Fink or Doctor Fink or any of those.
Yeah.
So
That's Bank with a va.
that's true. Oh my God, it's amazing. So that's crazy that you started this out, but this was not this didn't just happen for you overnight. I mean, like for what
Mm-mm.
I understand, it's been like about 3 years of a process. Tell me about some of the roads and twists and turns and evil plots that have prevented you from getting the book out until now.
Sure. Oh man, jeez, it's a lot to recollect because it just feels like a whirlwind when I think back on it now. But to start, I was in a relationship at the time, and unfortunately, when I put more focus on the book and less on my relationship, it kind of fell apart. So the falling out was pretty rough because the girl's family took a liking to me, and then not having me in that position created a lot of friction,
Okay.
trying to keep things vague just out of respect to them. But
Hmm.
the falling out was really rough. And
Okay.
then I moved around a couple times, moved back in with my father for a couple months. And then I tried going out to California to, live the dream like everyone else at the time. And unfortunately, if you don't have at least a couple grand in your bank account, it's going to be a lot harder than you think it is.
Yeah.
So after doing a lot of like odd jobs there and making ridiculously long commutes, like we're talking 3.5 hours each way just to do a transcribing job for a reality TV show. And then just trying to get by each and every month, paying rent, and then moving back to my home state of Connecticut, and then down to Florida to be with family again. I've been to the four corners of the country just to get this book done in the United States. So it was like my only rock, my only like focus of sanity amidst all the chaos the past few years, and just kind of going through a lot of odd jobs, a lot of burnout,
Yeah.
and even some nerve damage to my left shoulder, which is my drawing shoulder. I had to put up with. So I was literally drawing with pain, just like, I got to finish this book. I don't care how much it hurts. And there were many really tough days where I just wanted to give up. But I kept believing in the vision that fans want to read this book. This is something that we need, very much like how, The Simpsons has their own illustrated episode guides, or even the Twilight Zone companion, which has been popular for many decades now.
That's true. That's true. And you know what? And I started this show 5 years ago this month. Hey, everybody. And
Happy anniversary.
thrilled to say that we're working on a date. But Ross Hall was my first guest ever, and he's going to be returning to the show at some point this month with joined by Tucker, Daniel DeSanto. And
Wonderful.
yeah, and it's funny because I started out where I was looking online and being like, okay, cool, let's check out those Are You Afraid of the Dark special features and cast interviews. And where the hell are they? Here is this
Right.
amazing show that was on TV for years and millions of people loved them. And where's all the love? So
Right.
that's why I really gravitated towards your project too, because I said, well, God, this guy was in the same boat I was. It's just like, we wouldn't have done this had it been provided in the first place. And I know about the struggle to get something done. I mean, art hurts. We all know that, especially
Yes.
when you do it with such passion. But let's take a look at and Bernadette, we're going to be answering your questions in just a bit, but we definitely got to bring this up. Let's take a look at the cover of this book. Now,
Sure.
that is awesome.
Thank
And
you.
and you're an illustrator, and we should talk a little bit about what this book is and what it provides. So when you look at this book and we take a little peek on the inside, tell us what a reader can expect from this.
It's just about everything any Are You Afraid of the Dark fan could possibly ever want to know about the show. I mean, there's a ton of research that was put into this to the best of my ability. So, whether you're like a casual fan who's kind of curious about the show that, other fans have been talking about, or if you're like a diehard who needs to just dissect and consume everything you want to know about it in honor to the show, this is for you. It kind of gives you a little introduction of what Are You Afraid of the Dark is. It gives you a few testimonials from fans who grew up with the show, so you can kind of give a sense for, what this meant to different people who watched it. There's also, of course, the meat and potatoes of the book, which is an illustrated episode guide to each and every episode. So all 91 episodes are included, both of the original 5 seasons and then the revival season 6 and 7.
Okay.
And then after that, there's going to be there's a bonus tale section for this relatively obscure tale. I'm not going to reveal too much, but some people will be excited for, as well as cast and crew interviews, some concept art that I made during development, and just a lot of loads of other extras that don't come to mind right now. It's you're going to have a field day with this, and because it's designed to be also like a coffee table book, not just as an episode guidebook. Really, it's meant to be like sitting out there in your dining room table, living room table, and if someone happens to come across it and be like, hey, this looks pretty interesting, what's the deal with the campfire, and then opens it up, then you'll get a quick crash course on Are You Afraid of the Dark and why it's a freaking awesome show.
It's something about Are You Afraid of the Dark. It's funny when we see it through different perspectives. Like this whole series that everyone's watching right now is a tribute to YTV and the programming they did in the late 80s to, let's say, mid to late 2000s. Still, whatever. Whenever we cut it off, we don't hate on no programming here. And it's incredible that you're touching upon this specific time, but to us who grew up in Montreal, Are You Afraid of the Dark was that show our friends are in
Mm,
sometimes.
interesting.
Our friends who, got to be extras, or some friends who were actors because it was filmed in here. But you don't have any of the YTV stuff. You saw the show as a big, huge hit on Nickelodeon, right?
Correct. Yeah, and
That that's crazy.
Snick to be exact, because when I first saw it, like the Tale of the Phantom Cab, that
Yeah.
was at the very end of Nickelodeon's Snick lineup. So this was like a brand new concept for kids who were too young for dates but too old for dolls, as DJ McHale would often say.
Okay.
And once you manage to wait to the end of the 2 hour programming block,
Mm.
you got something a little bit different than the rest. You got, like, the sitcom, you got the variety show, you got the irreverent cartoon, and then here you have the children's horror anthology, which was unlike anything else at the time. So that really left a strong impression for a lot of kids growing up with it at a young age, and kind of hooked them early, so that it stayed with them no matter what time slot it aired beyond that initial airing.
Yeah. I do want to give some respect. Everybody watching right now, we are taking questions and comments and all that stuff. So every time you say something nice, we will definitely put it up there. But Bernadette was asking, what's your favorite episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark? We were talking a bit about that before we went on camera.
Sure. Yeah, that's a very good question. Thank you for asking that. It's a tough choice because there's a lot of favorites, some super memorable, some a little more obscure. But if I'd have to pick a definitive one episode that I would often share with people, it would be the Tale of the Dark Music from season one.
Cool.
And the reason why I like that episode is it just goes like, it cranks up the darkness up to 11 with the scares. It's got some great character development. You got some mystery behind the story that we don't quite fully see resolved. It's got like a downer ending, which is really terrifying, and just like,
Oh yeah.
a lot of the scares are left to the unknown, because the main villain in the episode, we don't see his true form. We just see kind of different forms he takes to kind of lure this unsuspecting child into his grasp.
That's
And
true.
when they kind of make a pact at the end, you see the corruption of its power. And to me, that's a very mature and long lasting theme to explore in a children's show like this.
Absolutely is. Playing a little bit in the background. Um,
Sure.
and also an incredible message about, kind of like bullying big time.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
and what someone is willing to do if they finally get power themselves and what they do with it. And I think that's why everybody likes Cobra Kai right now because of Hawk. Um,
Right.
yeah, so Bernadette, that's definitely it. My favorite episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark was a few of them. I mean, the Laughing in the Dark is a big one
Mm.
with Zippo the clown. The one I saw you. Oh, we should bring up on your Instagram page. What is your Instagram handle again, Brett?
It is at Brett Wilson Art, and that's the primary social media platform that I do. So if you can't find me somewhere else, head on there.
Cool. I'm gonna update this title to make sure it says that so good.
Sure.
So people have a chance to get to know this. At Brett Wilson, right?
At Brett Wilson Art.
Ah,
Two
okay.
T's. Yes.
There you go. See, technology. Great. Perfect.
There it
All right.
is.
Yeah. So another something that you do on your Instagram is you have episode watch-alongs. And yesterday, as I
Mhm.
was attempting to get you as a guest on the show, like Lionel Hutz chasing an ambulance,
Right.
um, I was watching along, and I had completely forgotten about the near peeing my pants experience. That was the one with Ashley from The Fresh Prince, and
Yes.
this amulet, and this old dude that comes out of the wall, and I was commenting in this episode that the brilliant thing about that show in particular is it shows up and seeing someone fail. And then the
Yes.
third act is seeing someone accomplish what the other person failed. And even when you look at it through a different prism, like a twin sister essentially
Right.
dies, disappears, and then her twin sister, which is a mirror image of her, is the one that succeeds but almost doesn't. And I remember just being at the edge of my seat because you knowing someone has already failed, it makes the concept of failure so much more prevalent
Right.
in your anticipation. So yeah, definitely. Oh, what was the name? What's the name of that one again?
It was The Tale of the Quicksilver, and it was
Ah,
told by
there you go.
Kiki in season 3.
Cool. See, you know your stuff, and you should because you wrote a book on it.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so everybody out there, if you have any questions, we're hanging out. We're talking about You Afraid of the Dark today. We're having fun. But tell me, so the Kickstarter campaign, when did you start the Kickstarter? When did you say, okay, I got to do this, but I need help?
Right. Yeah. Well,
Mm,
developing for it took a lot longer than actually launching the campaign, because the campaign was launched, I believe, around October 5th, so about a week ago.
okay.
But developing it took about, say, around 10 months, because I really gave it like a strong effort back in January, where I got a few help from some diehard fans. I kind of put out a flyer there saying, "Hey, do you like scary shows? Do you like Are You Afraid of the Dark? Do you want to be part of something bigger than yourself? Then join the Are You Afraid of the Dark Army and see what we
Mhm.
can accomplish together." And this was just me just kind of testing the waters to see what kind of response I would get. And initially, I got a surprisingly overwhelming response, but through for our experiences and kind of figuring out my agenda, I essentially became Gary through this experience, forming the Are You Afraid of the Dark Army, where I had my own Midnight Society who I met with every single week. We went over our agenda. We talked about the book. We even had some fun and shared our favorite episodes, favorite characters, favorite Midnight Society members, and all that stuff. And it was fun to be able to share the journey instead of just constantly struggle by myself, because this was about the point where I felt like I need more help to get this going, or it's not going to go. And with their help, they know who they are. I'm very thankful for their help. We were able to iron out a lot of details that just didn't dawn on me originally. So the campaign, the artwork for the campaign, how long it's going to be, what
Mm.
kind of rewards we were going to develop for it, all that came together
Speaking
because of
of,
the
bring up some of
army.
those rewards, dude. They're freaking
Sure.
cool.
Yeah, yeah. If you go on the Kickstarter page, you'll get to see all the rewards. And not only do we have like a physical hardcover copy of the book, but we also have a digital version for those of you who prefer to read on tablets. We have some posters of Dr. Vink and Sardo that are like in the style of museum busts, complete with like all their little artifacts from each of the episodes that they're in, which is pretty fun and exciting. And we also have a very rare Midnight Society class photo where we have all members of the Midnight Society from both Tucker and Gary's Midnight Society together in one campfire. And it's kind of designed like an old vintage photo that you found in someone's attic. So that's a definitely must have for fans. But I'd have to say the piece de resistance would be the King of the Stone Throne tier, which went in literally 3 hours of the campaign going live, where we had actual miniature replicas of the Stone Throne slash Storyteller's chair that
Oh,
the
they're
Midnight Society
miniatures.
members. Yeah.
I was like, how the hell is he gonna ship stones?
No,
Okay.
that would be really expensive, but no,
Yeah.
we got access to a 3D printer, so we were very fortunate enough to
Mm.
model them based off of one of my concept designs with the help from a 3D modeler.
Yeah.
And we got 3-inch Stone Throne replicas to go along with all your stuff. Plus, this podcast called The Tape Store, who we've been very gracious to work with, they provided a set of Midnight Society pins
I
too. So
saw
that's,
those. That was cool.
yeah, that's part of the top tier award as well. And you can also buy them separately from them if you'd like to.
It's amazing how iconic Gary slash Ross's like just his glasses are and his
Yeah.
hair because even in pin form without any facial features and just glasses and I'm like and there he is.
Yep, he's iconic that way. And I
Yeah.
actually used to have glasses like him, but unfortunately, I upgraded to the more square type. So, I almost look like him, but not quite.
I think Gary provided a whole generation of kids like me who wore glasses too. I I
Right.
I do wear glasses. I was shoving my contact lenses in about 10 seconds before we went on air, but um yeah, no, I felt better about wearing glasses because Gary was a pretty cool dude, man. Guy was in
Yeah,
charge. Yeah.
he made being nerdy cool, and I
Yeah,
respect him for that.
yeah. So many beautiful women I know had such crushes on Gary. Like he was the first like hot nerd, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah, Big Bang and all that stuff that would provide it later, but it all started with Gary from Are You Afraid of the Dark?
he was the OG.
Yeah. All right. So, talking about Are You Afraid of the Dark and its history, and are you a horror fan? Did you graduate into a horror fan after loving the series so much?
Somewhat. I do watch horror. I do enjoy like figuring out a lot of the special effects mostly when I
Mm.
watch horror films. I'm not like as diehard a horror fan as some other people are that I know, but I
Oh,
certainly
sure.
enjoy watching it on occasion. So I'd say like, somewhere between casual to intermediate.
Okay.
Mainly
And
classic horror, like 80s and 90s.
not well, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Are You Afraid of the Dark had many little clones, and
Mm,
it the age old argument is like Are You Afraid of the Dark versus Goosebumps.
yep.
Goosebumps that starts out as as Goosebumps that starts out as a book, but Are You Afraid of the Dark? I think it's a better show because it started out as a show. It knew what it wanted to do, and as it was being written, they're like, "What can we do on a limited Canadian budget and make it look awesome?" And did so.
Yeah.
With Goosebumps, you had the imagination of somebody who wasn't taking in consideration how much it costs to film something in Vancouver, and doing what they can. I find the more I watch Goosebumps, the TV show, the more and what I remember about the books seem so big and fantastical, and the show seems so forcefully humble. And
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
what's your stance on Goosebumps? I say
Uh,
as I wear a Goosebump
oh,
shirt.
nice. Very
I
festive for Halloween too. That's Tail of the Jack. Was it Attack of the Jack O' Lanterns?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought those books were great.
I listen. If it weren't
Yeah,
for the cover art by Tim Jacobus, I probably wouldn't be an artist right now because he was one of my main inspirations growing up.
dude,
I fell in love with him.
he's been on this show, man.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. During when pandemic first hit, Tim Jacobus is a wonderful guy, man. Super
Cool.
great dude. That's so
Off
cool
the
that he's your one of your biggest influences, dude. As
Yeah.
soon as I found out that all except two at one point, but we get into that in the interview, that
Mhm.
one dude painted all those covers, I lost my
Yep.
fucking mind. I was like, this is why I love everything I love. It's because of these book covers. And the fact
Right.
that it was all done by one guy is just absolutely bonkers. Well, what's one of your favorite Goosebump book covers?
Too many, too many. But if I were to pick one that like got the show going, it would probably be Night of the Living Dummy. Like the simplicity of it,
Hmm.
framed with like the backlighting and the fact that it's like slightly tilted. It just struck fear into my eyes. And I used to be afraid of dummies growing up, so it was like it immediately grabbed my attention in like a scary way. But then I come to appreciate it. So, yeah.
Crazy, man. So, and when you saw the shows, were you like politely smiling, being like, "Good try, guys. Good try."
Yeah. Some of my expectations had to be curbed when the books were adapted for TV because obviously
Yeah.
there's some visual changes compared to like the cover art, and maybe some characters got shifted around a bit, or maybe they had to rework the ending to fit like the 22
Yeah.
minute format of TV.
Yeah.
It was formidable. I'll give them that, but when it came to scary children's horror anthologies, Are You Afraid of the Dark takes the cake.
I
There's no
know.
hand holding. There was a clear intention set from the beginning, and they really went full on when they needed to. And plus, they had the added benefit of the Midnight Society kind of bookending everything all together to make it feel full and complete. So for me, that's tops.
I think the reason why we love Are You Afraid of the Dark and it resonates so much with us, even to this day, as we are older, I think it's because it trusted its audience to not crap their pants too easily, and they're willing to go there. And
Yeah.
maybe it's because it was shot in Canada on a limited budget, and there's this kind of like, whatever, and it
Right.
wasn't micromanaged and put through
Mhm.
all these filters of parents groups and all
Oh,
that.
exactly.
I,
Exactly.
I don't think that can ever happen again where they can go that that unhinged because every episode, and sorry, I keep yakking away, but what I loved about the show too is that each episode had its own style based on whoever the storyteller was, and you can
Yeah,
pick your favorite kid. And I think Eric was like the best storyteller in my opinion. Like
one of the best. Yes.
all of my favorite episodes are usually Eric stories and stuff.
Hmm.
Who was I don't know, maybe some of I don't at this point because you're so familiar with the source material, it's a little hard to pick. But who are
Yeah.
some of your favorite storytellers in general,
Yeah, I'll pick a few because I
on
rank them
average?
in the book. So I,
Ooh,
yeah, if you want to split hairs, but
yeah,
I who immediately comes to mind when I think Are You Afraid of the Dark for me personally, it would definitely have to be Eric because he goes all out. It definitely have to be Stig. Um, I love Gary's stories just because he's well rounded and he's lasted a long time, all 5 seasons of the original run. You have Betty Ann, who's more on the creepier side, kind of similar to Gary, but definitely does her own thing. And then you have Frank, who's the tough guy, and he also gives like a solid offering as well. Like no bad stories there. Um, Geez, that's like half the Midnight Society already. But I also want to give a good nod to David because I like the kid who's like sensitive and quiet, but also can bring the heat to the campfire.
amazing. Sorry, I just had like something cool. Sorry about that. Sorry about that internet. Jesus,
It's all good.
the professionalism never ends on this. Bernadette is bringing up that they also had a show called The Haunted Hour made by R.L.
Ah,
Stein.
yes.
That's true. That's true.
That sounds
But
familiar.
but kid horror has always kind of been around, and there was this golden age of kid horror. Like, have you ever seen Erie, Indiana?
I've seen bits of it, but something about the tone of it just didn't quite rope me in like Goosebumps or Are You Afraid of the Dark.
Okay,
I didn't
cool.
know what to make of it. It was on Fox Kids at the time.
Yeah, it's delightfully weird. But they had that and Freaky
Mm.
Stories and Tales from the Crypt Keeper. Like there was all
Oh yeah,
these great kid horror stories, and they're still doing it now. They're getting kids even younger into it with like Vampirina and Super Monsters. Like
that's awesome.
yeah, it's never really gone away. But I have a question for you. Do you find like in the mid '90s when The Craft came out, all of a sudden all monsters had to be teenage and sexy, and they forego the classical monsters? Like there wasn't any Dracula style vampires anymore. It all had to be
Mm.
very
Stylized.
very stylized and domesticated, and
Yeah,
it had to feel like it was happening now,
right,
contemporary. Yeah, there you
right.
go. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
What?
there definitely was a shift somewhere mid to late '90s, and I can't quite pinpoint it why. I think it just has to do with pop culture at the time, because late '80s, early '90s was really the golden opportunity for a lot of creative-minded people to take risks with the more darker subject matter. Like I know Tales from the Dark Side, Tales from the Crypt, X Files, all that stuff. In addition to Are You Afraid of the Dark and Goosebumps, all came around in like that specific time period of like 4 or 5 years. So I don't know what it was about that, but they tapped into something special then, and it was hard to replicate outside of that bubble, that time era.
Yeah. I just think that in general we're trying to protect children too much, and as a result, the content kind of suffers. Because
Yeah,
but what you gonna do? I don't know. The '90s were the Wild West, man. I'm
there
gonna
could be a
say that.
second resurgence. You never know. Like there could be a backlash to all the helicopter parenting, and maybe there could be a demand for just letting kids experience things on their own and learning to trust them more. Who knows
Mm.
what's in store for the 2020s? But it'd be nice to see a second resurgence of that.
Yeah, well, everybody, all the kids growing up right now is going to be built in with an element of awareness and fear of the outside. I mean,
Mm.
when all this is over and we're all good and we can go outside, there is going to be so many movies
Yeah,
about people wearing masks, and Daniel Day-Lewis is going to be in a movie called like Mask Denier or something. I don't know. It's
I
gonna
mean,
be
there's already tons on Netflix, so I'm sure it's going
yeah,
to explode.
yeah. It's just gonna be all right. So Vicky says, "What a coincidence! I just watched 2 episodes of Are You Afraid of the Dark." Sweet Vicky, tell us which ones, and
Yeah.
then we'll discuss them in awesomeness factor. But a little clip I want to show everybody right now is a little episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark called "The Tale of the Renegade Virus." Now,
Ooh,
for those of you who are familiar with for those of you who are familiar with the show and the series in Canada and programming in general, um, Melissa, who is about to appear on screen here, was in a show called Radioactive, and she played a character named Morgan. But in this episode, this was her first gig ever. She was about 14 years old. And yeah, this is called The Tale of the Renegade Virus, and you'll see a very young Melissa Gallianos doing her thing. So
very
let's
cool.
let's take a look. So there she is.
Oh, she's Sonia.
Yeah, she's Sonya. And her hair has never been that big since, but I think she's rocking it. It's a time stamp.
Yeah.
And this dude has been on the show twice. The
Hmm.
second time he's on the show, he plays like a really nice guy, but this time he's just a big jerk.
Yep. He
Yeah,
he actually was in the Tale of the Crimson Clown a couple episodes before this.
yeah. And he plays no, he's been on the show 3 times then, right? Because he plays a nice guy at least once. I remember. I
I
think I
don't
don't
know if
know.
I've seen him in for a third time, but I know it's definitely this one in Crimson Clown.
All right, cool. Yeah, well, there's only I think so many active Canadian kid actors back then. Now, oh my God,
Mm.
now they would have kid actors for days. So anyway, I gotta ask you, man. Um,
Sure.
a show came out last year. Are You Afraid of the Dark revitalization? I don't know.
Mhm.
Are You Afraid of the Dark? Maybe it's a name only. I don't know. I haven't seen it yet because I always thought it was none of my business. When
Sure.
you're making your book, did you think to yourself, "A, I gotta watch these all, otherwise, what kind of hypocrite am I?" Or B, were you just like, "It's not my band anymore. I'm just gonna
Mm.
I'm gonna let the kids have this one."
Right.
How did you feel about it? Did you end up watching it? Did you I don't
Yeah,
know?
yeah. I figured, if it's got the Are You Afraid of the Dark name, it's worth looking at least once. And maybe being a 30 something now has skewed my perspective a bit, or
Yeah.
but it was all right. It wasn't great. It wasn't terrible. I felt it was somewhere around the middle of the road because the things they did well were in the storytelling. They had a strong start and they followed through decently. And the ending wasn't quite what I wanted. It started to fall apart near like the climax. But
Okay.
aside from that, I like the characterization of the new Midnight Society. The villain was very gripping with his like visual motif going on at the carnival.
Cool.
Um, I love seeing Laura Bertram again. She starred as the mom in the tail of that 3-part miniseries, so that was a fun callback.
Oh, that's
I like,
fun.
yeah, yeah,
Oh
it's fun
shit.
to see
I had
recurring
no
actors
idea.
like that.
Well, if
So you
Laura,
might want to check that
well, if
out.
Laura's in it, I'll check it out because
Yeah,
Laura is like the
it's worth it.
sweetest human alive. So you
She
gotta,
really is.
God,
Um,
what a good soul.
yeah,
Vicky is saying the 2 episodes she saw was Laughing in the Dark. We're just talking about that, and
gotcha.
The Lonely Ghost.
Two
Which
great
one's
season 1 episodes.
which one's Lonely Ghost again? Oh, is that the one in the
Help me,
apartment?
help
Oh
me.
my
After it's on the
God,
wall with the
that
mirror.
is so scary.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
one was horrifying. The
That
dollhouse
got me
one
as a
was
kid.
the dollhouse one was horrifying, and that one was horrifying.
Hmm.
Are you familiar with the Frozen Ghost?
Oh yeah, it's really funny that you mentioned both of these ghosts today because
Mm,
I don't know if you're familiar with some of my other Are You for the Dark artwork, but there's a podcast that I volunteer art for called Big Orange Couch, and
okay.
they recently had this event called Podtober where they do some like episodes that are Halloween themed, and they did a versus of the Lonely Ghost versus the Frozen Ghost to see which episode is better. So, if you're interested in seeing a battle of what's a higher quality one, what's more memorable, etc., definitely check that out because
For sure.
they're both great tales in my opinion.
That's awesome, dude. I will
Yeah,
totally watch that or listen to that or whichever.
listen, yeah,
Where can I check that out? Just on
you can.
Apple Podcasts,
Yep,
iTunes.
yep.
Oh,
Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, pretty much anywhere where major podcasts are available.
sweet. Frozen Ghost was filmed at my family's house in Hudson. Like
No way.
my extended family. And here's the kicker, dude. So I have a friend of mine's dad was a producer of Are You Afraid of the Dark, and we're at his birthday party, and we're like 9 years old.
Mhm.
and we're all playing these games, and I ended up winning this VHS of Are You Afraid of the Dark, and it has two
Interesting.
episodes on it: The
Hmm.
Frozen Ghost and The Shiny Red Bicycle.
Oh,
Both
good one. Yeah,
awesome, awesome ones,
definitely.
and a Feel the Fear music video. So.
Yes.
So I'm with my grandmother, and we're off in Hudson staying at this. It's a bed and breakfast called Riversmead,
Mhm.
and so we're staying there, and I'm watching it, and a family member comes in. I can't remember which one, and says, "Hey, wait a second, that's this house." I'm like, "What do you mean?" It's like, "No, no, that's Riversmead," and we're like, "Okay," and then she's like, "Yeah, yeah, this time the two family members that lived there at the time, they were in Florida. This production company rented out the house for a few weeks, and yeah, lo and behold, so I discovered that I was watching an episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark that was in the house in which it was shot in as I was watching it for the first time, and
No
then
way.
and then I said to myself, Melissa Joan Hart's been in here.
Yeah.
So I immediately went upstairs and started smelling the pillows. It was very sad, but
Wow. Yeah.
we do what
That
we
is a
gotta do.
surreal experience. That's
It
amazing. I'm happy
it
for you.
it was. It was and it's kind of funny because it was always like an episode that really stood out to me. I always found
Mm.
ghosts scary out of all of them. I was always
Yeah.
kind of scared of ghosts.
They definitely wrote ghost stories very well on the show. They knew how to give them empathy and figure out how to get their unfinished business resolved. So, if anyone hasn't seen any of those episodes, definitely check them out.
Yeah, they're all on YouTube, by the way. Like everybody out there, like most of them at least, and I think they're them and sired. It's okay to do
You
at
can
least
find
in
them online.
at least in Canada. But yeah, it's crazy how many episodes there are and the quality of what they could do at that time, especially with the special effects. And I'm glad we brought this up. And you had a little you one of the images you gave me, and I just want to comment on this.
Mhm.
Is I believe it's this one. Yeah,
Yep.
Ghastly Grinner is such a cool episode. Like
Yeah.
it like I loved comic books, and this was anytime anyone would mention a comic book anything, I'd freak out. So when I saw this episode, it was just absolutely nuts. As a artist, what did you think of Ghastly Grinner?
I share the same sentiments as you, man, because I grew up on cartoons, grew up on comic books, comic strips, and the Sunday funnies. I ate it all up. Before I was like a more mature illustrator, I was into stuff like this. I even have some of my comics with me. Uh, let me look at a few, like Heathcliff from the '80s. Still have that.
Amazing.
So I really love the visual storytelling aspect of it. And seeing Ghastly Grinner where like a comic book villain comes to life was just a fever dream for me. I would love to see that happen with more comic books if possible, or even more issues where Ghastly Grinner would like fight different characters and bring it out into the real world and then bring it back in. So that episode is definitely right for the potentials of a children's imagination.
Dude, you know how to do stuff. People, I always tell people who can draw because I can't. I'm like, dude, you know what you need to draw? You need to draw Ghastly Grinner versus Attack the Mutant from Goosebumps and have the ultimate crossover. Because both those episodes
Oh
gave
yeah.
my suppressed comic book fan inside me such joy. Because everybody out there, there's a Marvel pre-pandemic. There's a Marvel and superhero movie 2-3 times a year. But man, when me and Brett were growing up, there was nothing.
Nope.
We had some really crappy Batman movies every now and then,
Yeah.
and it took what we could get. And when Ghastly Grinner comes up on the screen and we don't know it's coming, it's
It was
just
like
nuts.
Christmas for us. It was the best.
I know. Oh, so good. Um, another episode Melissa and I were watching recently is the Bookish Babysitter.
Yes.
Such a
Love that.
good one too.
Yeah.
I remember reading more because of that episode too. It actually had a good effect on me.
Yeah.
Um,
Subconscious reading.
Kenny Vung is saying something cool. I believe this is one of your other favorite episodes, right? The Tale of the Dead Man's Float.
Yes, that's my close second for my all-time favorites. I love it. It's just, oh, it really pushes the envelope like no other episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark. It's got a really great, well-developed story. You got characters you care about and empathize with.
Mm.
Zeke and Clarice are in the pool that they like revitalized to use for the swim team and all. And once they get
Oh
in there,
yeah,
yeah, it's that
yeah,
one.
with the red stuff, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
And when that's like blood, fleshy, dripping corpse just rises out of the water, you can feel the terror that's in all the characters that are reacting to him because it's unlike anything else you've ever seen on the show. And because
no.
of that, like initial image, me and tens of thousands of other kids watching it were afraid to go in the deep end because originally that character was invisible before he had a chemical reaction with something that was spilled on him. So you always thought that he might be hiding in the deep end waiting for you after the show was over. And that's the kind of episode that sticks with you.
Oh my God, I didn't realize like when you said Dead Man's Float, I was like, oh, the pirate one. Yeah, that's cool. I'm like, I didn't
I mean, that's
realize.
Cutter's Treasure if you want to get technical. That one's more
Yeah.
like pirate adventure. This one's just like bloody skull that comes out of nowhere from the pool.
Hey Brad, I would like to introduce you to Amanda Caliber, the biggest Goosebump fan I know.
Hi,
And
Amanda.
and when I was interviewing Tim and didn't have time to do some research and was asking questions, Amanda was always there asking all the booming ones. And yeah, so yeah, two fans meet each other, know each other, become powerful.
Yeah, right. It's all about the fandom and working together as a community to make things like this come to life.
So I'm thrilled to say that you met your Kickstarter goal, correct?
Yeah, in 3 days, surprisingly. The whole
But
thing was supposed to end, at the end of October on Halloween, but man, that blew my expectations out of the water.
that must feel good because
Yeah,
because every time I have a party, I'm a musician, so every time I have a concert or a party or anything, and we're at that period where it's like 8:05 and no one's there yet, I
yeah.
always I'm like they're gonna find me hanging from a rope. Um,
Oh,
yeah, so every time people eventually do show up, it always feels good, but I feel so good for you that you didn't spend the next few weeks teetering on that edge of why did I do this? Why did I try this? All that stuff. To get your goal that soon must have felt unbelievable. Can you take me to the moment that you kind of realized it's going to be okay?
yeah. Well, for the first like 2.5 days, I was stressed out. Like, oh shoot, I'm not going to make it. I'm probably just going to be just under, and then 3 years of work down the drain. But nope. Shatter all the fear and doubt when one of my good friends who actually like frequently commissions artwork from me
Yeah.
pledged her donation for the campaign. We hit exactly the goal amount, like not a dollar over, not a dollar under. It was exact. And when I felt that, it was like, all right, we are together. We fans are standing in solidarity. We were making Are You Afraid of the Dark history with this book. I feel amazing. And I'm so happy that this weight has been lifted off of my shoulders.
But everybody can still buy the book, of course. Like
Oh,
they could
yeah.
go to Kickstarter and just at this point, it's not like they're not buying it out of like, hey, dude, like there's no desperation at this point. It's just like if
Mm-mm.
you love Are You Afraid of the Dark, this is just pure enjoyment, and you should jump on this.
Exactly.
I'm backing your stuff, dude.
Thank you.
I'm gonna buy the stuff. Could you take me through you mentioned what the prizes are before, but
Mhm.
you have very clever prize packs.
Right.
Like one of them is called the Renegade virus. That's the
Yep.
most affordable version. What does the
Mhm.
Renegade virus give you?
That gives you the digital PDF version of the entire book.
Cool.
So that's pretty exciting.
I'm old school, man. I want to feel that. I want to feel it in my hands. I want
Yeah,
to
I am too. That's why I have all these books next to me.
I want to be able to like whack a red monster coming out of a pool in case
I mean,
I want to inflict harm upon it with a hardcover book if
right?
I had
I mean,
to.
it's
Yeah.
400 pages. If you hit someone with it, it probably hurt.
How much is the hardcover? Like let's say we're Canadian, like whatever. We're used to it.
Sure,
But
there's a conversion.
yeah, there
Yeah.
is a conversion. But how much American would you say is like your cheap like the most affordable one?
As of right now, the base hardcover book is $55, and that includes shipping, so you don't have to pay anything extra beyond that.
Perfect. Great.
And the reason why it's that specific price point is because it's a good like middle ground between your standard like hardcover book for this stuff and also coffee table books. Because for those who aren't aware, coffee table books are very comprehensive, very big, heavy. They're made with a lot of fine quality materials, and they usually go for an upwards of like 75, even 150 to 200, depending on what the subject matter is and what kind of content involves. So really, this is meant to be low-end coffee table book material, so it's affordable for the fans, and that's how we came up with the price.
Yeah, but it's also like what, 400 pages or something?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's no filler, all killer. So you're definitely getting your money's worth for every single dollar spent.
I think that's what everybody's a little sketchy about when they ever want to approach
Right.
a project. Or like, is this thing gonna be crappy? And I'm just like, and I could tell by the photos, like, A, it's not gonna be crappy, but B, I love that it talking to you, it's impossible that this thing has been phoned in. I think every word has been very well thought out.
Yes.
And and a lot of procrastination went into the production of it before it would even hit the printers. So yeah.
No, everything I do is genuine. My struggle to make it, the various rewrites. I had to rewrite this book 3 separate times because my computer crashed and I lost some files along the journey, which I didn't mention before. But this is a labor of love, and I honestly believe that if the fans take their time to go through each page and really take in the artwork, take in the information and the commentary that all the fans have to say about the book, even the cast and crew who lent their voices as well, you'll see this is, made with love 100%.
So non-person humans asking, is there a digital only version? For those who do enjoy just reading on an iPad and stuff like that.
Yes, exactly. That would be the Renegade Virus tier because that is digital only. So if you want to back the book, definitely get that version.
Um, Tell me about the drawings in Renegade Virus. Like, I'm sure there's just like one drawing per episode, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so I'm guessing it's the drawing of the gentleman who's the Renegade Virus and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. To be more specific, when I do these episode illustrations, I don't just like straight up copy and paste them from the episode. I
Of
try
course
to
not.
gather different elements that really speak to me when I'm watching the episode, and I try to present it in a new, fresh way.
Hmm.
So the essence that I captured from Renegade Virus is just like this overwhelming, bombastic personality that's like in a shorter person, as he's like looming over Simon, about to plug himself into his hand. So the illustration is pretty much him like on the desk laughing his evil villain laugh with his like VGA port hand about to stick it into Simon's hand. And, there's the computer in the corner that says password, and all Simon has to do is type it in before he gets like sucked into virtual reality or whatever. So I think you'll enjoy the illustration when you see it.
Well, I loved it when movies used to have paintings instead of just straight up
Mm,
pictures, and that's
yeah,
cool. And what you're saying kind of reminds me of that. It's
it
like,
harkens
hey,
back to that.
here's not a scene from the movie, but here's an idea of the movie, and like,
Right, an
you know,
impression.
an impression. Yeah, exactly. Um, well, Vicky's saying, I'm not sure what this means. Maybe you know more than me because you know the show more. I would like to see an episode featuring a death note. What is a death note?
I believe that's from the anime Death Note, and I'm not too familiar with that, but that would be an interesting concept where I believe, correct me if I'm wrong,
Mm,
you write in this journal, this mystical journal, and when you write in it, either someone or something bad happens, or maybe somebody dies.
that'd be cool.
So yeah, I like the idea of something more literary in concept executed. So you never know if Are You Afraid of the Dark comes back for a second wave in the 2020s, you might get your wish.
Well, it didn't come back last year. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, but that
Yeah,
doesn't really count because there's just like a 3-part miniseries. It wasn't like a
yeah,
full-fledged season. So
that's
in
true.
my eyes, that's just like its own thing outside of the official timeline.
I get it.
Yeah,
Yeah. I don't know. I think I always liked anthologies. Like, I'm a big Tales from the Crypt fan too. Like,
me too.
I like those short stories that have different feels. Like that way, because all horror is so vast and different, and there's different
Yeah,
genres and feels. I do like an idea that this episode is going to be very goofy, and then this episode will be very serious, and this episode
right.
will leave you with that ending that will, like the music in the dark, that will chill you to your bone.
Yeah.
And another episode will make you feel all happy and fluffy on the
There's
inside.
something for everyone. It's kind of like a buffet of horror stories, which is nice because you can't really get that too many other places.
And an episode that scared the crap out of me, but had a very warm, nice, fuzzy ending, was the A Tale of Apartment. I can't remember.
214.
214, where you see she goes to well, everybody out there, if you need a little reminding, is that a girl and her mom move into a new apartment building, and she doesn't have any friends yet, and she befriends the old woman that lives down the hall. So, um, they were hanging out, and the old woman said, "Okay, but just make sure you come over on Wednesday. That's a day I don't like being alone." And she's like, but then she manages to make a friend, and they're all going to go to a concert, and she can have real friends and stuff. So she ends up bailing on the old lady. So when she gets back, she goes into the old lady's house, and there's no one there, and it's all dark. And she's like, "Where did she go?" And I like how your lighting changed. It looks.
Oh, thanks.
I was
Sorry,
looking down, and
it's
I
getting
looked back
dark where
up.
I am.
I know. I looked back up, and I'm like, ah. His
Broke my
glasses
screen.
disappeared.
I didn't want the reflection.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, the amazing thing is she's in this dark apartment, and then
Oh,
slowly she starts becoming haunted by this old lady, and then she's just like, "You left me alone. Don't you realize what Wednesday was? That was
right.
the day I died." And I just to this day, I get not goosebumps because that's a that's a competitive
It's almost
show.
like anxiety inducing.
I get goose flesh about that very thought. But at the same
Right.
time, they managed to put in a nice kind of ending,
Yeah.
where the ghost lives with her and her mom and stuff. And
Yeah, it works out.
that so to have a happy ending, yet to scare the crap out of you, that is a very hard thing to do.
Yes. And
Yeah.
there are many instances of Are You Afraid of the Dark where they do that very well, where they kind of have a lighter tone and then they go into something dark and then they help pull you out of it. So it's kind of like a emotional roller coaster as you go along, but you know it's going to turn out okay in some way or other.
Yeah.
Sometimes it doesn't, but more often than not, it does. And you feel better for having gone through it.
Yeah. And we're talking about before. I'm like our parents coddling their kids too much. I'm like being scared kind of makes you feel alive in a way,
Yeah.
in a harmless sense where you're just sitting on your couch. Like I don't go drive fast cars trying to chase the
Neither would I.
dragon of adrenaline. I just
Right.
sit on my butt and watch movies about pool monsters. So
Maybe have some nightmares, but other than that, they're pretty harmless.
did any Are You Afraid of the Dark episodes actually ever give you nightmares? Because
Yes. Would you
I
like me
think
to elaborate?
yeah, please. As I try to think, I'm pretty sure the clown in the first season because I was like 8 years old, and
Yeah.
and the pool and the oh my god, I can't believe I keep forgetting. And Dead Man's Float
Full
definitely
zombie.
freaked me
Yeah.
out. Yeah. Oh,
Well,
and the
I'll tell you. Go ahead.
oh and the Quicksilver, the Silver
Yes.
Sight, that one.
Gotcha.
With the amulet and Ashley and all that. Please
Right.
tell me about your nightmares, Brett.
Sure. So, you know, even though it's popular to be afraid of Crimson Clown, Laughing in the Dark, Ghastly
Mm,
Grinner, I'm not really scared of clowns. I don't know why. I just kind of took them at face value as being people who want to cheer other people up instead of like destroy you when it became a popular horror trope. So that didn't really bother me. But what really does bother me is tall men in lanky robes that want to loom over you and suffocate you. And to be specific, the tale of the Quicksilver, that creature of darkness character that comes out of the wall, and the King's Ghost, that's the name I give him, who's in like that black smoky kind of outfit in the Bookish Babysitter. Both of them gave me nightmares for years, borderline decades, because I always thought that they would just float into my room in the middle of the night, do their little moaning, eye-piercing glance at me, and then kind of loom over me and just kind of suffocate me in my sleep. So that always bugged me for the longest time until I watched the episode enough that I became desensitized to it. And
That's the
it,
point. You
yeah,
got back in the ring and you said, "Let's go again."
exactly. And I
you didn't.
started having lucid dreaming where I could stand up to these monsters. So it empowered me in a way by just coming back instead of letting it chase me for the rest of my life. So in a way, that's a good thing about Are You Afraid of the Dark is if you feel like you've gotten into this in a young age and it really like terrified you, you can still like face your fears by just rewatching it because it worked for me. And I must say before you go on, the Renegade virus that give me nightmares as well. Even though he's considerably shorter than like the 8-foot men in robes, his evil laugh, his like protruding brain and the silver skin, like absolutely freaked me out. It was totally unnatural. And I'd often have this recurring dream where like everything was tinted red and black. and I was running around in this labyrinth trying to find my way out. I don't know if it's like a factory or a school or what, but I'd always get cornered in some dead end, and he'd say like "Game over, Einstein," and like plug himself into me. So there you go. But I got over that as well with time. So I think just seeing it over and over and trying to reframe things in your head psychologically is a big part of facing your fears.
Yeah, Renegade Virus in this house has given all of us nightmares because I think to myself, what if all my hard drives, blew up and so, and
There
some
goes all
that
that data.
and so yeah, what if all that data goes away? That's my biggest nightmare. When you're talking about having to rewrite the book 3 times because of crashed computers, I'm like,
Oh, believe me,
oh
it
my
was
God.
tough.
And I
I
think
almost quit.
Melissa has recurring nightmares of ever having that hair again, probably. And nah, it's
I'm
cool.
sure. Yeah.
Um, oh, interesting. Non-person humans bringing up sleep paralysis. Yeah, that's kind of
Yeah.
terrifying.
It's kind of in the vein of that where like you feel like you're gasping for air and you don't know if you're awake or if you're asleep, but you feel something like is in the room with you, a presence, and all you can do is like like trying to get out some words so that someone can hear you, and then eventually when you just give yourself a big jolt upwards in your bed, it usually just goes away and you kind of come to. So
Yeah.
yeah, I would definitely compare those recurring nightmares with like Quicksilver, Creature of Darkness guy, King's Ghost from Book of Babysitter, and Renegade Virus as some sort of like sleep paralysis nightmare type thing.
Oh, that's so cool though. In the bookish babysitter, when like the ghost becomes like a king again, and you're like, oh
Yeah,
sweet,
I
oh
I like
sweet.
that very much
Yeah.
because I thought he was just like a bad guy who wanted to like kill people who read his stories, but really that also helped with the reframing of the recurring nightmares for me is because I'm like, well, he's not bad. He turned into the king. He was just looking for his tomb. So it kind of falls into that unfinished business ghost territory, and suddenly he doesn't seem that scary, even if he looks like it.
I always
Don't
wanted.
ju- don't judge a book by its cover.
I always wanted to do that, man. I love two things about these shows. I always like it when people who start out as enemies become friends.
Yes,
Like
I
I
like that a
always
lot too.
I love that kind of journey because it just for everyone to be friends right away is completely unrealistic unless they're Are You Afraid of the Dark fans. But
Yeah.
but I do like that, and I always love the idea of finding a ghost unfinished business. Like Frozen Ghost when they find the jacket
Yep.
and all of a sudden all the money troubles are over. Like end the episode and you're just like, that's what happens when ghosts are your friends.
Right? You get rewarded.
Eat it up, Casper. Yeah. Oh man. And Shiny Red Bicycle, that was a freaking one
Oh, I
too.
loved it. One of
Because
my
that's
favorites.
another one that starts out where you know that mortal danger exists.
Exactly.
It starts out where you're like him falling down that it's not a ravine, is it? I don't even know what
It's
the hell
a
it's
it's like
called.
a canal with like a rickety bridge that goes over it. And
Yeah.
then because the side of the bridge gets loose, he like trips over and his friend can't like grab him before he falls into the rushing water underneath.
Oh, here's one. So Kenny Fong says the tale of the Midnight Madness gives me nightmares because of Nosferatu.
Nosferatu, yeah.
That's an amazing episode. That's the
I love
movie
it.
theater one, right?
That's top tier. Exactly.
Oh
Yep.
my God, there's so like you covered 90 episodes. Like
91.
in 91. You covered 91 episodes and even in my like little rickety imagination memory, I can think of like maybe 10 or 12, but there's so many more that I'm not even thinking about. Did you cover by any chance the episode I believe it's called The Tale of the Silver Sight with Tara Lipinski being an alien?
You got your facts a little bit mixed up there if you don't
Right,
mind me
right, right.
correcting you.
Lunar,
So
the lunar something, right?
Lunar Locust has Tara Lipinski in it.
There you
Um,
go.
the
Yeah,
Silver
yeah.
Sight is like its own little trilogy that
Right,
takes
right.
place in the beginning of season 7. Although, if I want to be like technical in terms of story arc continuity, it really should have been the finale of the series because the way they tied things up with that and getting the
Hmm.
Midnight Society members involved with the multi-layered stories. But that's
Yeah.
beside the point.
Ah, what can you do? But yeah, but you're right. Okay, so the one with Tara Lipinski, it's kind of funny because I was an extra in that episode for like
Really?
one scene, and I'm in the back, and it just goes to show what a crappy actor I was when I was 15, um, or 16 or whatever.
Mhm.
So um, it was great. You make money, you hang out, you walk around for a few hours. Being
Yeah,
a
you fill
teen,
the space.
that's amazing. So, they're like, walk with this person, meet up with this person, and kind of just walk in this direction. And there's like this little curve I have to walk over. So
Right.
I don't have the clip on hand, but
That
as
would be
I'm,
amazing to see.
oh, you know what, dude, I'll try to find it right now.
Sure.
Uh, okay, entertain the troops. Entertain the troops. So I believe it was Aaron Ashmore of Aaron and Sean Ashmore, who are twins.
Hmm.
One of them is an X-Men, and the other guy is in more TV work. So Aaron Ashmore is in this episode, playing like this guy who meets this alluring girl who apparently is from another planet, and she is Tara Lipinski. And tell the folks as I try to find this what some gems of this episode.
Sure. I mean, a lot of the episode just kind of deals with this love story becoming like a complicated triangle where I believe their names are Julie and Jake are kind of considering taking their relationship to the next level in high school. And they're just kind of stargazing on the football field outside. And
Wait, what do
they
you
see
mean by the next level? Are you mean like an American Pie sense or promise rings?
more like promise rings, like a token of commitment. That's how
Gotcha.
far they go in the episode.
Okay, good.
And then yeah, nothing too risque. But they see a meteor pass through the sky, and they're like, what's that all about? And then of course the day after, you see this new girl at school, Tara Lipinski, who's like very interested in Jake all of a sudden. And it's not necessarily like due to his personality. It's more like something that he has that I won't spoil. But her taking a sudden interest in him really gets Julia fired up. And so, she's kind of pretending to be Shelby Woo, investigating what's going on behind the scenes while Tara Lipinski is just leading Jake along to see if she can get that item that she really needs from him. And at a few points, we see some evidence that she's an alien because her like eyes glow green, and she even has some tentacles come out at one point, which is pretty freaky from
Your
from her.
standard gold medal Olympic winner,
Yeah, maybe they all have
tentacles.
that trait. Who knows? It could be a secret.
Yeah.
But it's a very fun episode. It's very like cheesy sci-fi, and the ending is kind of it's interesting. I'll leave it at that.
I
And
watched it.
it's
I'm
fun.
like, this episode sucks. Like, I don't know, in my opinion, but
Yeah,
whatever. I was just like,
Tara Lipinski really holds it up. I
yeah.
appreciate her star presence here.
Look, as an actress, she's a great skater. Okay, like,
Yeah,
yeah.
I agree.
Whatever. It's all good. Okay, so this is gonna be funny.
Sure.
I'm like literally in it for a second. You will miss me if you blink. There's going to be two people in the background walking, and let's hope I got the right one.
Do you have blonde
So,
hair here?
no, no, no,
Okay,
no. I'll have dark hair. So anyway,
gotcha.
she's realizing that. Okay, so
Yep, the
he
two
walks
people.
over to her. This scene's there. I am with
Oh,
the
yeah, I
backpack.
see ya.
And here I am, and keep watching in the background as you see me completely overdo that jump.
Oh wow,
Yeah,
that's a fun fact.
yeah, yeah. Wait, even more, even more.
There's Julie, by the way.
This was like 2 hours of shooting because I don't think Aaron was very good at driving back then.
Gotcha. I
So
was gonna say, is walking that hard?
look at me overdo this.
Yeah, that little skip.
Yeah, yeah, that little skip. Like I'm like that guy in Teen Wolf who has his fly unzipped at the end of the big game. Like
Oh,
why?
geez.
Like why? Why did
It's a
you do
fun
that?
Easter egg.
Yeah, like why did you do that? And so yeah, for the last few years, I've played more junkies and bums on various TV shows, much more realistically. There was no skipping involved, but back then, that's what was up.
Cool.
Oh man. Well, thanks so much for coming by today. Everybody out there, we have the Kickstarter and the link, but what is the official Kickstarter? Let's make sure we get this
You can
down.
find it Kickstarter.com and just type in Scary Tales, an illustrated guide to AYAOTD. That's the title that it has.
Amazing. And
You,
and
you can
when you
also
sorry, please,
Uh,
please.
Yes, you can also find the link in my bio on Instagram. So if you want something to click on, go there, find me at Brett Wilson Art, click the link, and you'll be directed to the campaign.
And people can hang out with you when you later tonight
Yeah,
do a watch along. What time at uh, Canadian time? Let's say Eastern Standard Time.
yeah.
Can people check you out on Instagram?
Sure. So I'm hosting watch parties 3 times a day in order to fit all 91 episodes of Are You Afraid of the Dark for my Are You Afraid of October marathon, and that's to help promote the Kickstarter. You can catch them at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I also do them at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time and 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So you'll be able to see more tomorrow if you missed tonight's for whatever reason, and they'll keep going until the end of Halloween.
Amazing. And Brad's going to be providing some, some commentary, some, uh,
Yes.
some fantastical Easter eggs, if you will. And now, when you show show this garbage episode, you can bring up the extra that ruined a scene.
Sure. I mean, if you want to be present for Lunar Locust, I'd be happy to point you out.
I like how you're inviting me to be on your show, and the internet just decided to die at this exact moment. Until it comes back because of that still frame, I'm going to just entertain the troops a little bit until we get recontacted with Brett here. But isn't that amazing, everybody? And Are You Afraid of the Dark fan made book? Isn't that awesome? And seriously, hardcover, like a lot of thought and care was put into this, 3 years of effort. So, yeah, frankly, I've spent money on way dumber shit. So, yeah, count me in, okay? I am a backer of this
Oh,
Kickstarter
still
project.
there.
There he is. Yay! He's
Yeah.
back.
Yep.
All right. So, I was just telling everybody, like, this book looks too legit to quit. And I need to have it on my collection. I need to have it on my shelf. And consider yourself backed into a corner.
Awesome. I appreciate all the support I get from Are You Afraid of the Dark fans. We're all in this together.
All right, everybody. So make sure you follow him on Instagram. Yeah, and show all that love, because this 2020, October 2020, is the time to show your love. And yeah, I'm so glad that you met your goal. And now it's just icing on the cake. So everybody out there, let's provide all that icing. So much icing. Awesome.
Yes, let's make
All
the
right.
best cake ever.
All right, take it easy. All right. Thank you, everybody, for watching this. We do shows each and every week. We will announce when Ross Hall and Daniel DeSanto, a.k.a. Gary, and Tucker will be on the program. We'll be sure to mention on the Facebook page. And might not be on our regular time, because we want to make sure everybody can watch it. But, yeah. Oh, non-person humans asking what genre do we play grunge? It's like, no, but I get why you think that with the Cobain hair. This is what you call I haven't left my house in 6 months, which the 90s called grunge. So